Proverbs chapter 20, chapter 3, verse 9.
Proverbs 3:9. Honor Yahuwah with your substance.
Honor Yahuwah with your what?
With your substance.
What is your substance? Your stuff. Right? Honor Yahuwah with your stuff. When you get a surplus of anything, when you get, or whether it's a surplus or a little bit, you're supposed to honor him with it. First thing, not treat yourself. Honor him with it. Read.
And with the first fruits of all your increase.
And with the what?
First fruits of all your increase.
Read.
So shall your barns be filled with plenty.
Then what's going to happen?
So shall your barns be filled with plenty.
Then your barns going to be filled with plenty. And what?
And your presses shall burst out with new wine.
And then you're going to have new wine, right? If you honor him with your stuff. But what happens if you try to hoard it to yourself? For the people that are rich or have a surplus. Right? Let's see what it says. Let's go back to the Luke 12. Yep. 21.
So is he that lays up treasure for himself and not rich toward Elohim. And he said unto his disciples, therefore I say unto you, take no thought for your life, what you shall eat.
He said what?
Take no thought for your life, what you shall eat.
He said, take no thought for your life and what you're going to eat. Read.
Neither for the body, and what you shall put on. The life.
Because when a person is rich, what do? Like today's time, what do rich people do? They go buy all of the stuff that makes you look rich. They go drive those cars that make them look like they got money. They show you that they eating at the places with the fat shrimp, right? The fat's in, right? Big old lobster tail, right? They go get the dumbest, biggest chains they can find. They go about 12 of them and walk around with them all on like they only got one day to wear them all, right? Just for show. This is a person that is rich in the wrong way. This is how you can identify somebody who is chasing after riches, but a person that actually got some money. Yeah. Look like me. Right? Robert Kiyosaki, right? I had pulled up a video looking I was looking up a video to see, what his take on riches versus wealth was, right? So I'm watching the video and I'm like, okay, when is this dude gonna stop talking to get to Rob? You know what I'm saying? And the video was almost over. I'm like, who is this dude? The name popped right up. Robert Kiyosaki. And I was like, this is one of these richest people that people know, and he's sitting up here with just a black V-neck turtleneck on and some sweatpants. Right? There's a difference. But a person that's laboring to be rich is also going to labor to show you that they're rich, which means their mind ain't set on what it's supposed to be set on. Because when you get the money, it's something you're supposed to do with the money. Right? Jump up to verse 16.
Verse 16. And he spake a parable unto them, saying, the ground of a certain rich man brought forth plentiful.
He said, the ground of a certain what?
Rich man.
Brought forth what?
Brought forth plentiful.
Now remember, he says to honor Yahuwah with your what? With your substance, with your increase. This is what you're supposed to do. Read.
And he thought within himself, saying, what shall I do? Because I have no room where to bestow my fruits.
I ain't got no more room to store my crops. Now what does this take us back to? He said, I'm going to open up the windows of Shamayim and give you a blessing that you can't even receive. Now, what was supposed to happen with those excess according to the law? It was supposed to be given to the poor, the widow, the fatherless. These are the people who are supposed to inherit the kingdom. The same people who he's been telling us to take care of from jump. Right? But what did he do? Read on.
And he said, this will I do. I will pull down my barns.
I'm going to do what?
Pull down my barns.
I'm going to take down my barns that I got. And what?
And build greater.
I'm going to build bigger ones. So now I don't have excess outside of my barns no more. I'm going to put it all inside of my bigger barns. That means he's keeping it all for who? That means he's not honoring Yahuwah with his substance. Because he's not doing with it what the man told him. Read.
And there will I bestow all my fruits and my goods. And I will say to my soul. To my soul.
I'm gonna say to what?
To my soul.
I'm gonna say to myself. Myself said, Right? There go that pride now. Read.
And I will say to my soul, soul, you have much goods laid up for many years.
There go that pride, right? Because of the riches. Now, he was increased with these riches due to something he did well. But he didn't honor Yahuwah with it. Right? Read.
Take your ease. Eat, drink, and be merry.
Take your ease. Take your rest. Kick your feet up. You got money for a long time. Read.
But Elohim said to him,
But what did he say?
You fool.
You what?
You fool.
You fool? Read.
This night your soul shall be required of you.
You're going to die tonight. Read.
Then whose shall those things be which you have provided?
Now whose stuff is it? Now who going to get it? It don't say nothing about him having no children or an inheritance to give away. All you have to do is what the man tell you to do with the riches. If you have an abundance, give it to who he say give it to. Because it was him that done it in the first place. The diligence of your hands gathered it, but he made it so. Right? Absolutely. That's exactly what he did, right? All right. Jump over to Ecclesiastes chapter 7 and verse 12.
The book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 7, and verse 12. For wisdom is a defense,
And what?
and money is a defense.
Money is a defense.
But the excellency of knowledge is that wisdom gives life to them that have it.
Mm-hmm.
Consider the work of Elohim, for who can make that straight which he hath made crooked?
Mm-hmm.
In the day of prosperity be joyful, but in the day of adversity consider.
So one thing he said wisdom is a defense. Money is a defense. But then he went back to wisdom and said what? What did he say about it? Wisdom does what? It gives life. What is our wisdom? The Torah. Right? He told us that this is our wisdom in the sight of the nations. To do what we're supposed to do according to his word. But not neglecting the fact that money is a defense too. What happens if somebody sue you? You're going to have to buy a lawyer, ain't you? What happens if you get in trouble with the law and it's not a right charge and they give you a public defender? More times than not, what happens? You're likely to go to jail. But if you can afford an attorney, that means somebody is working for you. That means that their best interest should be your best interest because you are paid them. Right? What happens when you go to war with somebody? More times than not, the people with the most money, right? Understanding that money is a defense, so you need to have it, right? Not this whole ideology that, no, we don't need money. He put it here for you. The substance he put here for you. But you got to do right with it, right? Let's jump over to the book of Luke, chapter 19. Actually, before we go there, let's go back to Matthew 19 so we can deal with this young rich ruler.
The book of Matthew, chapter 19.
Pick it up at verse 16.
Verse 16. And behold, one came and said unto him, Good master, what good thing shall I do that I may have eternal life? And he said unto him, Why call you me good? There is none good but one, that is Elohim.
If he's coming to him asking him this, like my ox brought out before, I think specifically B, that he felt like he was missing something. It's the reason why he asked. He felt he was missing something, right? Read.
Why callest you me good? There is none good but one, that is Elohim. But if you will enter into life, keep the commandments.
You're going to get into the kingdom, keep the commandments. Plain and simple. Read.
He said unto him, Which? Yeshua said, You shall do no murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness. Honor your father and your mother. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. The young man said unto him.
The what type of man?
The young man.
So this is something that the book pointed out to us. That he was a what type of man? Young man. This is the story of the young rich ruler. Young rich ruler. All right. Go ahead.
The young man said unto him, All these things have I kept from my youth up.
But he knew that already, right? He already understood that. But he knew he was missing something. Read.
What lack I yet?
Now remember, Quad brought out, you have the letter of the law, and you have the spirit of the law, right? Read.
Yeshua said unto him, If you will be perfect.
If you will do what?
If you will be perfect.
Now are we commanded to be perfect? Absolutely. Whole, lacking nothing, wanting nothing. If you're going to be perfect, exactly, fully furnished, not just a nice house on the outside and only a couch and a mattress in your house for furniture. Fully furnished. If you're going to be perfect, whole, read.
If you will be perfect, go and sell that you have.
Do what?
Go and sell that you have.
Go and sell the stuff that you got.
And give to the poor.
Now, what's the purpose of saying that he was a young man, this young rich ruler? What's the purpose of that? What's the purpose of the book pointing out that he was a young man? Go ahead, Twan. Because it's more than likely that he received an inheritance. Right? Which means that he didn't work to get the money. The money was what? Given to him. What did the book just tell us that we were supposed to do with riches? The first thing you do is honor him with your substance. He understands that this is Mashiach, right? He came up to him and called him good master. He knows who he's talking to. But he just received an inheritance. If you got $5 million, would you give it away? Not all of it. He said, go sell all that you got. Is this a hard thing? Very hard, right? Because outside of this inheritance, what do this young man know how to do? The thoughts crossing his mind, will I ever be able to obtain this type of riches again? Right? Hold what you got, because we got to come back here. Go to Proverbs 13. Pick it up at verse 17.
Proverbs chapter 13 and verse 17. A wicked messenger falls into
Nobody needs to hear it. Hold on. Jump up to verse 11. No. Verse 7. Verse 7.
Verse 7.
Proverbs 13:7. Sorry.
There is that makes himself rich.
So there's a man that makes what?
Himself rich.
Himself rich. Remember, who does these riches actually come from? There's a man that makes himself rich because he's laboring to do what? He's laboring to be rich. Right? There's a man that makes himself rich, and what happens?
Yet has nothing.
He ain't got nothing though. Ain't nothing behind it. Read on.
There is that makes himself poor.
But there's a man that does what?
Makes himself poor.
How can a man do that? Oh man, remember, what story are we dealing with? The young rich ruler, right? It said there is one that makes himself poor. How can you make yourself poor? By giving away your riches. There is one that makes himself poor, and what happens?
Yet has great riches.
Yet has what?
Great riches.
Yet has great riches. So when we looking at this young rich ruler, his understanding was, if I get this away, I'm going to be broke. Not understanding who or the value that this man that was in front of him would bring. Right? This man made himself poor. Let me ask y'all a question. Did not Mashiach do the same thing? It said he left where? He left where he was at to come and be amongst us. But after a while, he regained what he had before, right? Keeping this understanding in mind where he know he's talking to Mashiach. This young rich ruler is told, hey, brother, sell what you got and give it to the poor. Right? Proverbs 28. Verse 27.
The book of Proverbs, chapter 28, verse 27.
See, when you storing up your treasures in Shamayim, money itself, things themselves will never stop coming to you. Because you have somebody who will always be supplying you. Right? But if you're only laboring for one thing, and that's to be rich and have stuff, you're going to always lose it. Or you'll never obtain it. But if you honor him with your substance, rich man, because there are epistles that are directly dealing with the rich in the congregation. It's their job to do certain things for the poor in the congregation. In order for a man to buy a Hebrew servant, he has to be able to have some what? Got to have some money to house these people for how many years? 7 years, 6 years, 7 years. You got to be able to have some money for them. But it's how you obtain it and what you do with it. Right? Proverbs 28, verse 27.
He that gives unto the poor.
He that does what?
That gives unto the poor.
Read.
Shall not lack.
He said if you give to the poor, you're not going to never what?
Shall not lack.
You're not going to lack. This is what this man was missing. He wasn't able and ready to give up his stuff, to give up his riches. He was only thinking about the money or whatever land or whatever he just inherited in order for him to continue on in life. Remember, he's a young man. He got his whole life ahead of him in his eye. Right? But the book said if you get the man that made himself poor was going to have riches. Now, this is not to tell a person that's rich or has an abundance. We're not telling B, hey B, you got to give all of your stuff away. We're not telling B, right? But it's the job of those that are well off to help out those that are less fortunate. right? We're not talking about the lazy, the one who just refusing to go and do some work. We're not talking about the one who is like, man, but I'm straight doing this, but hey, let me get 50,000. No pun intended, because I'll be saying it all the time. We know you Ron got money. You know what I'm saying? You be trying to hide that boy got money. Right? We're talking about the ones that are lazy, the ones we're not talking about the ones that's lazy, the ones that won't go and do the work to actually put themselves in a better position. The Most High even looked down on them. He said, consider the ant. Look how much work he put in. Right? They go and build colonies. Right? But what happens to the sluggard? All of his stuff is going to go away. But your mind must be stayed on him first. Let's go back to Matthew, chapter 19. Pick it back up when you go.
Verse 20. The young man said unto him, all these things have I kept from my youth up. What lack I yet? Yeshua said unto him, if you will be perfect, go and sell that you have, and give to the poor, and you shall have treasure in Shamayim.
Remember, he said it. He that makes himself poor is going to have what? Going to have riches. Right? Read.
And you shall have treasure in Shamayim, and come and follow me. But when the young man heard that saying, he went away sorrowful, for he had great possessions.
He had what?
Great possessions.
He had a bunch of stuff. Right? Read.
Then said Yeshua unto his disciples, truly I say unto you, that a rich man shall hardly enter into the kingdom of Shamayim.
Now let me ask y'all, did he actually have a shot to make it into the kingdom? Yeah. He knew, because remember, he knew who he was talking to. Which means he understood the what? The scriptures. He understood the law. In order for him to know that this is that man, he had to understand the law. Right? It said he went away sorrowful. Read.
And again I say unto you, it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle.
Now, here we go back to this. It's easier for a man to go through the what? A camel to go through the eye of a needle than a what? Than a rich man to enter into the kingdom. Now, what's the eye of the needle? Absolutely. So you had a gate for your herd to get through, or your animals to get through, and then there was a man door, right? In order for a camel to go through this man door, you would have to take off all of the stuff that was on the camel. Everything that was on it. It couldn't go through, when you usually pack a camel up to travel. You had to take all of this stuff off of it. It would have to crouch down and its way through. Right? It's not impossible, but it's a hard thing. It ain't like the camel walked through smoothly. A lot of times it had to be pushed by its master. Right? But it couldn't. It would be impossible for him to go through there with all of his stuff. That's the part that's impossible. But if he was willing to take the stuff off and get through there, he'd be all right. Right? Go ahead, read.
Verse 24. And again I say unto you, it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter into the kingdom of Elohim.
So, would this rich man have been able to make it into the kingdom? Absolutely. If he was willing to do what? Get rid of your stuff. Part with your stuff, and you have a place here in the kingdom. This is not somebody who had dishonest gain. This is not somebody who obtained their riches by stepping on the poor. It's somebody that got an inheritance. And because he couldn't fathom getting rid of his many possessions and giving it to the people that were less fortunate, couldn't make it. Jump over to Luke chapter 19. Let's see something else real quick.
The book of Luke,
Verse 1.
the book of Luke, chapter 19, and verse 1. And Yeshua entered and passed through Jericho. And behold, there was a man named Zacchaeus.
What does Zacchaeus mean? Anybody got this stuff up? What is his name? His name means what? Pure. Name means pure. Okay. Go ahead.
Which was the chief among the publicans.
He was the what?
The chief among the publicans.
Now, what were the publicans? Tax collectors. 100% of the time, these tax collectors, go ahead and say that. 98.9% of the time, these tax collectors were doing what? Compounding the interest. Usury, right? Added to it. If you only owe 20%, you owe 33%. He took 13 of that and put it in his pocket. And it said that this man was the what?
Chief.
The chief tax collector. The dog. Read.
And he was rich.
And he was what?
He was rich.
Of course he was rich. Right? Read on.
And he sought to see Yeshua.
He said he did what?
He sought to see Yeshua.
This rich man sought. Now he gained his stuff dishonestly, right? But he sought after Mashiach. Read.
Who he was. And could not for the press, because he was little of stature.
He was short. He couldn't get over and see him. Right? Read.
And he ran before and climbed up into a sycamore tree.
So he done ran past everybody to go over into this tree so he can look down and he can see who? Mashiach. Which means that he's doing what? He laboring right now. Now he's a rich man. Right? Go ahead.
And climbed into a sycamore tree to see him, for he was to pass that way. And when Yeshua came to the place, he looked up and saw him and said unto him, Zacchaeus, make haste and come down.
Do what?
Make haste and come down.
Come here. Let me holler at you. Read.
For today I must abide at your house.
I gotta stay at your house. Rich guy.
And he made haste and came down and received him joyfully.
He said what?
And received him joyfully.
Oh man, who was you, dog? He didn't do that because he was seeking after what? Righteousness. Read.
And when they saw it, they all murmured, saying.
So when they saw him kicking it with Mashiach, and Mashiach like, I'm going to your crib tonight. They like, Read.
That he was going to be guest with a man that is a sinner.
This kind of sinner, dog. Take everybody money, man. Got me for 12% of my thing last week. Man. I'm broke because of him. Like, he going over there with him. He's supposed to be riding with us. Read.
And Zacchaeus stood and said unto the master, Behold, master, the half of my goods.
He said, the what?
The half of my goods.
What did he say?
I give to the poor.
Half of my goods I'm giving to the poor. Off the rip. What else he said?
And if I have taken anything from any man by false accusation, I restore him fourfold.
And if I done cheated any of these people out here, I'm going to restore fourfold. What did he say to him?
And Yeshua said unto him, This day is salvation come to this house.
Stop it. Today have salvation come to your household. Right?
So he knew he was wrong.
He knew it, but he wanted to do right. He gained his riches dishonestly, but he was willing to part with half of it just to be in the presence of this man. Right? He like, this day, salvation has come to your house. What verse we at?
10.
Yeah, verse 10. Yep. Luke 19. Yeah, start at verse 9. But he was willing to part with his stuff. Right? That's not an easy thing for a lot of people to do. But he was willing to do it. Right? Read. 19 and 9.
Luke chapter 19, verse 9. And Yahushua said unto him, this day is salvation come to this house.
That's a double entendre. Because ain't he salvation?
Yes, sir.
But he also telling him that salvation that came to his house. Read.
This day have Yahushua come to this house, for as much as he also is a son of Abraham, for the Son of Man is come to seek and to save that which was lost.
Uh-huh.
And as they heard these things, he added and spake a parable, because he was nigh to Jerusalem, and because they thought that the kingdom of Elohim should immediately appear.
So now that he said salvation is come, they like, uh-oh, the kingdom about to come right now. Read.
He said, therefore, a certain nobleman went into a far country to receive for himself a kingdom and to return. And he called his 10 servants and delivered them 10 pounds and said unto them,
Not 10 pounds of that stuff. Some money, man. Money. All you ex-drug dealers, he was not selling work. I always said
Occupy till I come. But his citizens hated him and sent a messenger after him, saying, we will not have this man to reign over us.
He said, we ain't gonna have this dude reign over us. Read.
And it came to pass that when as he was returned, having received the kingdom, then he commanded these servants to be called unto him, to whom he had given the money, that he might know how much every man had gained by trading. Then came the first, saying, Master, thy pound have gained 10 pounds.
So look, I done put your bread into use, and it's done gained 10 from this one you gave me. Read.
And he said unto him, well, thou good servant, because thou hast been faithful in a very little, have thou authority over 10 cities. And the second came, saying, Master.
So this is talking about stuff that they did with what they were given. So if a person is slothful and not willing to do what's required of them, right? You're not going to get great possession in Shamayim, because you didn't do good with what I gave you, right? Some people will take that and say, oh man, you know, I'm making $7 an hour and I'm good. That's cool. But if you know that you ought to be doing more to labor, then do it. Do it. Absolutely. Because it's going, as you're getting into the word, as you're getting into what this book is talking about, remember, he told you there's always going to be what among you? Poor. So if it's always going to be poor among you, and you know you're not one of the poor, you actually have movement in your ligaments for you to get up and go and get it. You actually are able and capable to do what it takes to help out the poor. If you sit dormant and slothful and don't get so you can give, you're going to be just like these wicked servants that he's about to talk about. Read.
And the second came, saying, Master, thy pound hath gained 5 pounds. And he said likewise to him, Be thou also over 5 cities. And another came, saying, Master, behold, here is thy pound, which I have kept laid up in a napkin.
In a what?
In a napkin. For I fear thee, because thou art a steward man.
He said, I don't put your stuff in the napkin because I feared you. I knew you was an austere man. Read.
That thou takest up, that thou layest not down.
You take up money that you ain't put down. Right? That you ain't worked for. Read.
And reapest that which thou didst not sow.
You getting stuff that you ain't even sold. Read.
And he said unto him, out of thine own mouth will I judge thee.
Because they are servants, right? Aren't they benefiting from things that they haven't worked for? Aren't they receiving things that they didn't labor to get? He said, out of your own mouth you're going to be judged. Read.
Thou wicked servant, thou knewest that I was a steward man, taking up that I laid not down, and reaping that I did not sow. Wherefore then gavest not thou my money into the bank, that at my coming I might have required my own with usury? And he said unto them that stood by, take from him the pound, and give it to him that have 10 pounds. And they said unto him, Master, he have 10 pounds. For I say unto you, that unto every one which have shall be given, and from him that have not, even that he have shall be taken away from him.
Stop. Now, what's going on here? The person that got something is going to get more, and the person that ain't got nothing going to get that taken from him? What's that? What's going on there? That sounds like the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer, right? Is that what's going on here, though? Whatever was given to these people, they stored up to get more. Right? This last servant didn't work or labor to store up nothing. He dealt deceitfully. He dealt wickedly with what he was given. So now that thing which you have, you don't deserve it. Give it to that man who did what he was supposed to do to get it. Right? We got to understand the principles of these scriptures. The Most High don't want us to be no lazy people. And a lot of times from a lot of these brothers out here, that's what we get. Dudes that say, oh, let my wife go out there and do all the work. It's men like that out here. I'm doing the work of the Most High. I'm out here preaching and teaching. She can go make all the money. That's earthly stuff. The man that don't work, right? That joint that said, be content with your wages. This is a very true statement, right? So if you making $25 an hour and you train me, and I come in at $28 an hour, I'm quit. You're not content with your wages.
That's exactly how it is.
But if you make 25 garments, and there's an opportunity for you to make 50 for another company, you gonna turn it down? No. That's different than just being content with your wages. That's working to receive, right? If you have a big vineyard and you plant a quarter of the vineyard and you get money off a quarter of the vineyard, that's cool. But that vineyard is that big vineyard for a reason, right? We got to understand how this thing works. Everything that we do, we have to consider who first. Consider him first, right? Don't be in a position to where you're going to be lazy or slothful and think that you got a certified position in the kingdom because he said the poor is going to inherit it. He ain't talking about you, right? I'm going to close it up with a couple, and then we're going to get up out of here for part 1. Right? Get Acts chapter 20, verse 35. No, you're not off next week. This is not a part this week, next week. Quab is definitely dropping next week. Bring part 2 back.
I think you should drop next week.
No, me just trying to push his a little further back. Yes, sir.
You like it, you love it, do it again next week.
Acts chapter 20 and verse 35.
Acts chapter 20 and verse 35. I have shewed you all things, how that so laboring you ought to support the weak.
He said that laboring you ought to do what?
Support the weak.
It's your job to support the weak. Read.
And to remember the words of the Master Yahushua, how he said, it is more blessed to give than to receive.
It's better to give than to receive, right? 1 Timothy chapter 6, pick it up at verse 10.
Timothy chapter 6 and verse 10. For the love of money is the root to all kinds of evil.
The what now?
For the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil.
The love of money, not having money. The love of money, read.
Which while some covet after.
Some do what?
Covet after.
Some covet after money. That's the wrong thing to do. Remember, he says, labor not to be what? You're not supposed to covet the things. Your labor is supposed to be diligent, and he supplies increase for your labor. Right? Read.
Which while some have coveted after, they have erred from the faith.
They have done what?
Erred from the faith.
When you covet after money, you're going to err from the faith. You're going to get away from what this book is telling you. Because your labor is supposed to be to who? To him first. Seek you first the kingdom of Elohim and what? And his righteousness, and all those things is going to be added to you. The Most High don't want his people broke, family. That was the whole purpose of the promises. We was going to be living like fat rats. Right? You name me one thing a rat labored to do, but seek around and pick up the food that was there for him. Right? That's what he intended for us to do. To leave out of poverty and to go into wealth. Right? Read.
But thou, O man, for the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil, which while some coveted after, they have erred from the faith, and have pierced themselves through with many sorrows. But thou, O man of Elohim, flee these things.
Do what?
Flee these things.
You're supposed to get away from that. Do not be trying to covet money. That's not your job. That's not your job. Right? Matter of fact, jump over to James chapter 5 and verse 1.
Why did you add all kinds of evil?
No, it's what it is.
That's what it actually is supposed to be translated to.
So, we go back. Oh, if you go back to Genesis, where was money involved in there, in the garden?
Where was money involved?
And it actually says, if it's the root of all evil, then evil started in the garden. Where was money at then? It wasn't.
Wasn't none.
It wasn't none.
It's just
trees, man. So money is the root of all kinds of evil, but not all evil. But the love of it is the root of all kinds of evil. So you can look around and see all kinds of evil that comes from it. But back in Genesis, there was no money in there, but evil was there. All right.
James 5:1. Here's the warning.
James chapter 5 and verse 1. Go to now, you rich men.
You what?
Go to now, you rich men. Weep and howl for your miseries that shall come upon you.
Wait a minute. Now, all this good stuff he was talking about, rich people.
Your riches are corrupted.
It says, your riches are corrupted. Read.
And your garments are moth-eaten. Your gold and silver is cankered, and the rust of them shall be a witness against you, and shall eat your flesh as it were fire. Ye have heaped treasures together for the last days.
You done laid up treasures for the last days. You trying to put stuff away for you. That ain't what he told you to do with it. Read.
Behold, the hire of the laborer, who have reaped down your fields, which is of you kept back by fraud, crieth, and the cities of them which have reaped are entered into the ears of the master of the Sabbath.
So he says that the wages of the workmen who plowed your fields, which you kept back, you didn't pay these men for their work. Right? He says, and the cries of those reapers have reached to the ears of Yahuwah of hosts, Yahuwah of armies. When he says Yahuwah of hosts or Yahuwah of Shabbat, when you look at that, host is armies. Right? Now, he says that their cries have reached to Yahuwah of armies. What do you think is going to happen to you? It's wartime for you. Because the money and the things that you were blessed with, you did not do right with it. Read.
You have been in pleasure on the earth, and have been wanton. You have nourished your hearts as in a day of slaughter.
The Hallelujah reads, you have lived on the earth in pleasure and luxury. You have fattened your hearts as in the days of slaughter. So again, he's telling them, you done lived your life up, but you ain't do well with the riches that you had. Read.
You have condemned and killed the just, and do not resist you.
You done killed people that ain't even coming up against you. See all of these things that are coming up from a man that's chasing after these riches, that's trying to hoard these riches? Read.
Be patient, therefore, brethren, unto the coming of the master. Behold, the husbandman waiteth for the precious fruit of the earth, and have long patience, for it is until he receives the early and the latter rain. Be ye also patient, establish your hearts, for the coming of the master draweth nigh. Grudge not one another, brethren, lest ye be condemned. Behold, the judge standeth before the door. Take, my brethren, the prophets, who have spoken in the name of the master, for examples.
So he's giving you these things as examples, and he's telling, he just laid down a sentence on these rich that have done these things to the poor. Right? Because the poor are his people, just like the rich are his people. Proverbs 22:2. Right? But when you don't do for those people like he said that they was going to receive, now I got to do something to you. Right? The wealth of the who? The wicked is stored up for who? It's stored up for the righteous. That means the righteous are supposed to have what? They're going to have some wealth. Right?
Proverbs chapter 22, verse 2.
Start at verse 1.
Verse 1. A good name is rather to be chosen than great riches.
Now, you have to make sure that you understand what he's saying. A good name is better to be chosen than what?
Great riches.
Than great riches. Now, Does that mean a person that has a great name won't have riches? Abraham, right? Our whole promise is based on him. Job, super rich, lost it all, and it was given to him how many times over? Sevenfold. Right? Great names that came with what? Riches. But if you have to choose, because what's going to happen with this choice? Either you're going to choose to get money in a way that's going to soil your name, or you're going to choose to have a great name over those riches. Understand the difference? Go ahead.
The rich and the poor meet together.
The what?
The rich and the poor meet together.
And what?
Yahuwah is the maker of them all.
Yahuwah makes them all. The poor and the rich. So it's not for us to look at nobody and say, oh, because he got a lot of money, or this dude is rich, that he's evil, that he's wicked. It ain't for us to say that these people are anything less than a child of the Most High, outside of looking at what they're doing and how they're obtaining their riches. Imagine if you put your mouth on Abraham's name, because he got money. What would happen to you? Imagine if you would have put your mouth on Joseph's name, for he was given riches. We have to keep. You said Bill Gates? That's a different story. It's a whole other story.
Vaccines to kill people.
You know what I'm saying? And he profited off of it. So we got to understand, this is just to show that a person being rich is not wicked. It's not evil. So on the next part, we're going to go into the rich versus the wealthy.
Next week.
Not next week. What would you rather have?
Trav.
Riches
The people have spoken.
or wealth? Only you have spoken. The riches or the wealth. Right? Because we also have to remember that all of us are supposed to be rich in here. We got to store up our riches, our treasures in Shamayim. And it ain't a bad thing for you to labor and get some chips here on earth. With that, I say shalom. Questions, comments, concerns? Oh yeah, we need for the chat. Hold on one second.
Come forward, I'll be.
Monsieur Blackbeard. Your gift will make a way for you. Yep, go ahead.
So I was just asking, how do you know what your calling is? Like, how do you know if you called to just get a little money and do you, or go out and like you said, go out and get it in massive amounts to give to the poor? How do you know what your eyes called to do?
But the intention is not to go out and get it in massive amounts. You know what I'm saying? That's not what it's for. Your work will produce more. Not to say, oh yeah, I'm about to get 50 million. Because that ain't what he said to do. Because now you're focusing on the money. Right? Now if you're saying, I need to build a community. Now the work that you do is going to go towards you building this community. You know what I'm saying? Your diligence is going to show forth, and he's going to give you the increase. But if you're not like again, he names people in the script. Get the child, the motherless, the fatherless, the widow. What do you want to say? Deuteronomy 14? Deuteronomy 14.
Deuteronomy 14:29. And the Levite, because he hath no part, no inheritance with you, and the stranger, and the fatherless.
So you see, right here, he actually giving you the reason why the stuff that you give is for who it's for, right? He said the Levite, he ain't got no inheritance with you. Read.
No inheritance with you, and the stranger, and the fatherless, and the widow, which are within your gates, shall come and shall eat and be satisfied, that Yahuwah Elohim may bless thee in all your work.
So this is what you're going to do for him to bless you. Now here comes your increase. Now here's the more that you have based on that. You know what I'm saying? And like he said, it's always going to be poor amongst you, right? Even a person that works for you. Deuteronomy 15:1. Even a go ahead.
So basically, you're saying don't work for the money, well, work for the money for the kingdom. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. As long as you're doing what he said do with what you have, according to this, it's coming to you. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. 15:1.
Deuteronomy chapter 15 and verse 1. At the end of every 7 years.
So this is a person that's working for you, right? Go ahead.
You shall make a release, and this is the manner of the release. Every creditor that lendeth aught unto his neighbor shall release it. He shall not exact of it of his neighbor or of his brother, because it is called the master's release. Of a foreigner thou mayest exact it again, but that which is thine with thy brother, thine hand shall release. Say, when there shall be no poor among you, for Yahuwah shall greatly bless thee in the land which Yahuwah thy Elohim giveth thee.
So now he's telling you, like, look, if you got a servant, somebody working for you, somebody who working off a debt for you, 7th year, you got to let them go. You ain't supposed to continue to make people pay on these debts. He not building a society where the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. This is for everybody to be able to come up together. You know what I'm saying? If you can help it, let there be no poor among you. You know what I'm saying? Go to Philippians. This is what Antoine was saying. Go ahead.
Proverbs 18:16.
Proverbs 18:16. Oh. Proverbs 18:16. It says, a man's gift make room for him and bring him before great men. Is that what you're talking about, Antoine?
I have heard about it,
But is that along the thing?
That's the one he quoted.
Oh. Was it anything that you wanted to say to go with it? No?
That was the scripture you quoted, but I think the context in what you thinking about it is different than what is actually stated. And to touch on what you asked now, it sounds as if you're asking like what should you do? Is that childless, those people who are not like handicapped, and not because an able-bodied man or woman, excuse me, would be able to provide for themselves. But so it's all of our calling to help those people that are needy, less fortunate, those people who are without, especially if you've been increased enough to have. My thought on it is the things that you are gifted at or that you're passionate about, you turn them into money earners. Because then you don't feel like it really wouldn't matter as much money or as little money that you earn. You won't feel like you're really working. You know what I mean? Because it's something that you enjoy.
A labor of love.
Something that you passionate about, or something that you're gifted in. So that's what I always encourage people to do. My question to you is, not you in particular, but to the person who's asked, like, well, what should I do? What do you enjoy? What are you good at? You know what I mean?
Yeah, he asked me the same question. I told him, put more first. As you shall see.
You pray on it. You definitely got to pray on it. But the thing is, it take a lot of like soul searching and knowing. You know what I mean? A lot of times people just don't know. You know what I mean? But that's why you ask the question, because one thing that most people do know is what you like. But most people know like what you like. What do you like to do? What do you enjoy doing? And then turn it into a business. In this day and age, with the way things go, apps and technology, like you can almost make anything a business.
Seriously.
It came to me that if your children are seeing that they feature on the news, started out just helping people. Lemonade stand, I don't think that was a particular example, but some child, I can't remember what they did, they were doing something because they saw a need in the community. Next thing, people saw what they were doing and they gave them more. And instead of the kid going out and buying a lot of frivolous stuff, it just helped him, and he had other people to help him to do what he was doing, and now it's a big business. But still, the purpose is to help other people, and of course, in that is his family, and he's just a little kid.
Right. I mean, that's where it started. That's where all our joys and passions started when we was kids. You know what I mean? And then when we were kids, or in generations past, not so much anymore. They had stuff. They had a lot of programs and different things that kids was involved in, like scouts and stuff like that, where you learned a lot of skills that you didn't, that a lot of them don't think they really still do that like that no more.
That was a conversation I used to have every year with my students. I asked them, if you can do, because they don't really think for them, like whether it's braiding hair or doing a lawn or something that you like to do, and you get a little money for it, yeah, so you can continue to do that by the time you grow, you own your own company.
Right.
Yes, write about it.
Yeah, I have these conversations with my mom sometimes, because we recall back when I was younger, maybe like 10, 11, 12, 13 years old, some of the stuff that I do right now to earn money, I used to do then. And it's like, oh, remember when you used to? Like, yeah, I forgot all about that. Started drawing and airbrushing and designing and doing different stuff way back when I was 10, 11, 12 years old. So it's always just kind of been something that,
That leads me to the question, just based on what you said. I've heard people say or teach two different aspects as far as raising a child in the way as you go. When I was younger, I heard meaning in the spiritual realm. But then later, for the first time, I heard somebody say, no, well, because they were explaining how it is you raise a child in the truth, or whatever the result we know of being the truth, and the child strays, real big time. And it's like, well, is the parent responsible, and what happened? If they raised them right, they did all that they could, what happened? So is
about everything in here. We can relate it to, you know, how you conduct in the spirit and in the natural. So, and I think that in particular applies both. You know what I mean? We try to raise these children up, or it actually says train up, right? So we try to train these children up to do certain things, even when they come around here, like, you know, how we singing and where they enjoy, you know what I mean? We training them to do those type of things, but at the same time, I had this conversation just yesterday with a brother of mine, and he was feeling like that his relationship with his young son wasn't what he wanted it to be. But he grew up a sports guy. He played all kinds of sports. His dad had him involved in sports, and his son is like not in the sports at all. He like games and like tablets and that kind of thing. I said, if that's what he's good at, then you nurture it, right? You nurture a gift. You know what I mean? Like don't play your son because he don't enjoy what you enjoy. Nurture the things that he enjoys doing. You know, find out what's interested in him and nurture that, and then you never know what he could be. You know, so I think it's bold.
You also look at the example of Abraham, right? The Most High said, I know that Abraham is going to do what with his house? Teach his house the ways of Yahuwah. Out of Abraham's house, how many of those children went astray? Except for who? Except for Isaac. Right? So, just considering that, right? Yahuwah said, I know that he's going to raise his house up in this way. You know what I'm saying? So we got to just take it into account that Abraham wasn't around there teaching them to be lawless. He was actually instructing them in the way of righteousness. But, you know what I'm saying? So we got to consider the source. Who said that proverb? You know what I'm saying? What's really behind that proverb? I would lean more towards the nurturing that gift and the skill, because if we look at the exacts, if we look at the scriptures, you know what I'm saying, Mashiach, right, with his disciples, the entire time he was teaching them the way of righteousness. But what happened? And then there was Judas. You know what I'm saying? So we really have to, when we look at these scriptures, we got to look at them practically and take into account everything. Not just the, you know, because a lot of times we go in, and I've been guilty of this, go in and we read that like, oh, that's what it is, see? Without getting any context, without thinking about what happened before, what happened after, you know what I'm saying? So just considering it all.
And it's good for that because you'll have unbelievers, people that want to challenge
Oh, yeah.
scripture, say, well, what happened or what?
Exactly.
She raised a child right, I was right there, saw it, and that child became this, that, and the other, and no good, whatever, so it's not true.
They try to give reason for the scriptures to be wrong. And it's like, hold on, it's a lot of stuff in here that we've, over the years, taken and said, this is this, without really considering the body of the book. You know what I'm saying? And saying, wait a minute, but if that's this, then just like the labor not to be rich thing, right? You'll take that as, well, if you're rich, you're done. Like, nah, not necessarily. But this is what it means when it says labor not to be rich. You know what I'm saying? Don't covet money. Don't, you know. So it's just going into it. And I know I haven't personally went into that. But I had a conversation with somebody that same trained up a child, and it was kind of like, wait a minute. And like, wait, look at Abraham. Abraham trained up his family, and everybody didn't end up right. You know what I'm saying? Look at the kings in the scriptures.
Solomon wrote that. And when he was old, he departed.
Solomon himself. So, you know. You got something? I don't see no more questions.
So why is it for a rich man to get in? What's with that? Why is it so hard for him to enter into the kingdom?
Ecclesiastes 5.
And you got comfort and all more honor in those possessions than because of the kingdom.
Trusting in his riches.
Is that right? Yeah, most people think they did.
Most people who are rich acquire their riches.
Yeah, that's. Mm-hmm.
Can't take it with you.
A lot of reasons. This is a lot of reasons.
So when you're rich, in most cases, you gain a lot of stuff, right? What does that stuff do to you?
Lift you up.
It bring you that thing from the inner man. That's it. Most people that get a lot of money, whole humility goes out the window. You know what I'm saying? It builds pride. That's why you have to be very, very careful if you do get money. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Most people get it and swear up and down, I will be the same person. But the evidence, according to Morty, the evidence says that's a lie.
Yeah.
Most of it's a lie. You don't change up. You don't switch up.
First Timothy chapter 6 and verse 9. But they that will be rich fall into temptation and a snare, and into many foolish, hurtful lusts, which drown men in destruction and perdition. So understanding that with the rich, like we was talking about earlier, it's a lot of stuff that open up to you when you get this, when you get rich, that you have to be able to conquer within your own self. You know what I'm saying? Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar, buku money. And what he started to talk? Oh man, look what I done did. Dog, what you mean what you done did? Y'all gave you that. Ecclesiastes 5. Check this out. I'll stop on this. Ecclesiastes 5 and 10. Let's see. Let's see. Might have to check. Oh, that's 10. Yeah. 5. Ecclesiastes 5 and 10. It says, he that loves silver. Matter of fact, verse 9. I always start at verse 8. If you see the oppression of the poor, and violent perverting of judgment and justice in a province, marvel not at that matter, for he that is higher than the highest regard, and there be higher than they. Moreover, the profit of the earth is for all. The king himself is served by the field. So he's saying the profit, not the profit like prophesying, but the profit, the stuff that comes from the earth is for everybody. Right? It says, the king himself is served by the field. So what he receives comes from everybody who's working to provide, right? He that loves silver shall not be satisfied. What do you say? For the love of money is the root to all kinds of evil, right? He says, he that loves silver shall not be satisfied with silver, nor he that love abundance with increase. This is also vanity. So understanding that if you love these things, it's not going to stop there. You're going to have to continue and continue to get the thing that you love. And it's going, oh man, I want to get $1 million. I work, I get $1 million. Ah, it's not enough. I need to get 10 million. I work. Ah, it's not enough. I need $1 billion. You get $1 billion. Ah, $1 billion is not enough. I need $1 trillion. And then is gazillion the actual thing? I need a gazillion. You know what I'm saying? And then whatever is after that. Right? But if one man holds all the money in the world, what does that do for everybody else? You won't even have nothing to spend it on. The whole world around you is going to fall apart. You know what I'm saying?
Which takes us back to the pursuit of happiness. Because that's what it is. It's chasing something that you can never get enough of.
Never.
It's never enough. No matter what it is, it'll never be enough. If I conquer the world, what's left? I gotta go to heaven and conquer it. See what I'm saying?
Right.
It ain't gonna never, ever be enough no matter what it is. And that's the illusion. You know what I'm saying? So now that you live on 30 miles, right? So the competition says, wow, it's 30 miles. I'm gonna get to 31 miles. And then he's gonna come behind it and say, well, I'm gonna get on 33 miles. And it's just gonna keep going. You know what I'm saying? Oh, I got an Olympic-sized swimming pool. I gotta get double Olympic. You know what I'm saying? It's just gonna keep going. It don't ever stop.
Y'all ever seen that movie, Keeping Up with the Joneses? And my man ended up killing himself at the end. That movie was crazy because there was like this secret service of people behind a lot of products. And they sent people into these neighborhoods, right? A family that pay the family to be together, to go to the schools. These people will go and be the most popular in these places, right? The son drives an Audi to school. He's the best dressed. He's the this and that. And he's there to influence the children to get the things that he has, which means they got to go to their parents, right? The girls. They sent a daughter in there, teenager. She's the best dressed. She got this, she got that. Now it goes back and there's pressure on the parents. Ah, man, such and such got this and we ain't got this. But now you got the father that's paid, right? He's in the neighborhood. He got the best lawnmower. He got the sweetest ride. His house is the most laid out in the neighborhood. So now the other fathers is like, hey, man, he got a 2019 Corvette. I got to get the 2020. Same thing like what he's saying, right? And in this movie, you saw these people's lives being shattered because they were trying to keep up with the Joneses, even though they didn't have the money to do it. The dude's friends was telling him like, hey, man, why are you going out and getting that? Well, you ain't see what Robert had? He had the Nightwing 5000. And he ended up killing himself because he was trying to keep up so much that he got over his head in debt. His family, his wife left him, the whole nine. The very thing he was trying to obtain, he ended up losing everything because of it. You know what I'm saying? So if y'all can find that movie, it's Keeping Up with the Joneses. It's a real informative movie.
It says money is numbers, and numbers never end. It takes money to be happy. Search for happiness.
Facts.
Yeah.
That's what I say.
Real. And like, I'm a thinker. So riding around, I just think. So when I used to take my mom to work, she worked at Ford. I used to look in the car lot, and it was thousands of whatever type of new car that they was building in rows, thousands of them, right? And if they didn't sell them, they would crush them. What? That don't even make sense. You look at hotels, right? Go downtown and you look at the buildings, and there's people in this hotel, and there's thousands of rooms in this building. And you got people outside in the cold. Something wrong with you. You know what I'm saying? You become a beast. You know what I'm saying? The natural affection of man goes away with the more that he obtains, the more stuff. Because it's like, wow, you see people homeless, and you don't open up these rooms for them. You know what I'm saying? You see people walking, and you won't give them this car. You'll take it and crush it. I'd rather crush it than give it away. That shows these people have become beasts. You know what I'm saying? It's just natural. Wow, they need this. But then I'm going to come over here and do a fake fundraiser so the cameras can see me and say, look what I gave away. It's fake. That's what it does. Again, this pride turns into a beast. You lose all natural affection.
Is it?
Oh, yes.
I got one thing. Are we gonna do color sister pass over to see people dates already? Or we kind of came on the colors and then bring it to congregation?
Thank you.
Yes.
We're talking about a committee.
No, I was just saying, no, last time we did it, there were a few people in the congregation who wanted our feedback.
I'm saying when we talked about it, we were bringing.
The COVID, quote unquote, messed it up last time. So
No, I'm saying, we were just a few of us was left here like after service, and we came up like pretty much from color.
With the color
We
scheme.
came out like somebody said, well, why did the congregation?
Oh,
pick the
okay.
color? Just a few people doing it, so.
We'll do another poll on the message board, and we'll do it on the message board, and then we'll let it be known. That way nobody get left out.
So we have those that didn't sit on the board already, have the days for the feast days. Passover is gonna be the 27th at evening. First of unleavened bread is gonna be the 28th of March, March 28th. 27th is the Passover at evening. March 28th is the first day of unleavened bread. April 4th is the last day of unleavened bread. Pentecost, Shavuot is going to be May 17th. Trumpets is going to be September 7th. The Day of Atonement, September 15th. The first day of Tabernacles is going to be September 21st. And the last great day is going to be September 28th. Also, the new moon, I think I said the 13th, but it should be actually the 14th. It's going to be Thursday because of the day that when the sun rises, it's going to be the 14th because the new moon came out after the sun rose on the 13th. So it's going to be January 14th, just so we're going to be accurate here. It's also on the board. It's on the Chosen Seed page as well. And then we'll be posting, obviously, as these come up. You'll be hearing more from everybody about colors and schemes and all that as we approach the day. One more, I'm sorry. Purim. I didn't mention that one. I think it's 26.
Oh, yeah.
Soon.
Yeah, we gotta get something, that way we can have it posted. Yeah, it's just a letter, you know, how the little letters in it.
I kind of shocked head looking at some of them. That's what they tend to call letterboards. You know, the little plastic, I think they're plastic or vinyl letters that you put in. We mostly see them when we go to an office building and we're looking for the floor of the suite we're going to. Those boards are usually black, have velvet or whatever, felt about it. And you stick the letters in there, so you open up the cabinet, and then you know, put it there, and you can put a lot of information in shorthand, you know.
Is that something like you know how to?
Huh?
You know how to put that?
No, we got problems.
Oh, it ain't like you gotta. I'm thinking about like in school.
No, they're the ones that you see when you're going to an office building, you're looking for the floor. Doctor, whoever.
Oh, okay. Got you.
Right outside of the elevator.
I got you.
And
I got you.
some of them are even in cabinets, so people can't, mess with it.
I got you.
Yeah, those, we'll get one of those.
And you can put it like almost.
She posted the link. Yeah.
And then, I'm sorry, and Pure is gonna be, it's February 25th, 26th. February 25th and 26th. Pure.
It's a tradition of our ancestors.
That's on you, brother.
You know what I'm saying, baby? We have thou room. I just don't like that word stuck. You know what I'm saying? Sheesh. To go to a hotel and be stuck at home.
We gonna pray. We already started. So that's it.
Can we get a real drum?
Give sparingly, shall reap sparingly. Did you get that preset?
I ain't get that one.
That's next week. Father Yahweh, we thank you for your word, Father. We pray, Father, that we will be diligent, Father, to keep your word paramount in our lives, Father. And we will seek first your kingdom, Father, and its righteousness, Father, and understanding that all things that we desire, Father, we added unto us, Father. And that we have not, Father, because we ask not, Father. And that giving unto your people, Father, those people who are in need, Father, that those things in itself, Father, are needs worthy of you giving unto us, Father. Father, we thank you for your law, Father, where life is spelled out, Father. And we thank you for opening our eyes unto that life and life more abundantly, Father. We pray, Father, that you would give us a heart to give and not receive, Father. Understanding that we know that it is better to give than to receive, that blessings come through giving, Father. We pray, Father, for each and every person who who may be ill now, Father, who may need their health restored, Father. We pray and ask, Father, that you would look upon them, Father, and allow their health to be restored according to your mercy and your healing, Father. Father, we pray for those people who cannot be with us today, Father. We pray and ask, Father, they would just continue to be diligent in your word, Father, to walk towards you, Father, that you would be a light unto their path, and use them and use us all, Father, as vessels for your kingdom to be uplifted, Father. For your word to flow through, Father. Let us be the word of life and power and strength, Father, to those people who may still be in darkness, Father. Father, we thank you for the blood that was shed for the remission of our sins. We pray and ask, Father, that we would just continue, Father, to press towards you, Father, and press toward the mark, Father. And we would continue to uplift each other and walk as brothers and sisters in the way, Father. And all these things, Father, we pray and we give thanks. So be it. So be it.
Aminu Shabbat Shemaim. Ikadosh. Shemka. Tabo. Makuka. Yerase. Rasunka. Bahares. Kahashir. Nahasha. Bashemaim. Telanu. Hayom. Iki. Ikanu. Uzak. Lanu. Eight. Ashmatenu. Kahashir. Suki. Manatu. Lashir. Ashmu. Lanu. Wa'al. Talinu. Lede. Asa. Ki. Ni. Asaman. Mi. Ara. Ki. Ka. Amamlaka.